No egos.
No judgment.
Break bread and prosper. Talk to a brother.
I watched you the other day on your Instagram story talking to kids. I said, yeah, man, you know what I like was the whole, right, you know, you got a question, Chris was like, and then, you know, he asked the question, and you was like, that's a very good question, Piers. Man, that's so cool, man.
Do you know what it is?
Oh, man, so cool. Give him time to think.
They cut off, on all the interviews that we've done, they cut off a lot of the stuff that we say.
Yeah, of course they do. They just pick out the bits they want.
Exactly. And it's not saying it's a bad thing, because obviously they've got a short period of time, 2-3 minutes or something.
But they tell their story.
And they tell their own story. And that's why, the very start of that, and because we talk about this now, they started advertising us as Black Lives Matter protesters. And every single interview we went to, I made a point of saying, look, we're not Black Lives Matter. Not saying anything against them.
They don't care about that.
They don't care. All they want is their story.
They're just feeding the media.
Black guy saved the white guy. What's the story? He's set up in the road.
He's healed the world, man.
With Piers, for example, Piers Johnson, all the other interviews that we did, I purposefully flipped their questions back on them, because they were saying, "Oh, what can we do? What would you like to do to implement change?" I'm like, nah, guys, you're the ones who own the radio stations. You're the ones who are the chief execs of these that actually have the capital. You have the influence. You have. It's your country. What are you going to do?
But that's why they're moving on.
And they literally, I get cut off on a lot of those interviews, you know.
Yeah, of course you do, man. The same with me. I've done so many interviews, and then as soon as you're going direction that they don't want to use, so you say, well, okay, well, park that. Okay, on to the next one now.
That's it. That's it. Because it's their narrative for the moment. But then that's why my thing is the solution isn't to try and go into these corporations, whoever it is that we've worked for before, and try and implement change there. No, build your own. Same as the police. People are saying, oh, the police are doing the wrong thing. Defund the police. I'm saying, do you know what? The police are doing what they're paid to do. The police are actually doing their job. They're actually protecting property. They're not doing anything illegal, which is why they get away with what they're doing. It's not about reinvesting in the police. It's about defunding that and putting that capital into a new service. That just for talk about the police now, put it into a new service which is designed to protect and serve any police officers that do want to protect and serve and do want retraining and re-education. They can come along for that journey, get that skilled training, and then become protectors, maybe to call it protectors.
Yeah, but you're talking about a major overhaul of a system that
I don't think that system ever works. I don't think
as long as it's tied into the judiciary side, there's a lot of things that work on a certain level together. And it's all a form of control for the masses. And generally speaking, it works. And if it didn't work, they would change it. But generally speaking, it works. These little pop-ups now and then, these flares, they're stories for the media. But at the end of the day, the police out there, they say, look, we're facing this battle all the time. You know, there's nothing new to us just because today you said, you know, there's a Black Lives Matter issue. They've been facing this issue on and off for the last God knows how many decades. So for them, they're just quietly working away, man, on process. You know, the media is the ones that create. The thing is, we don't know a lot of stuff. You probably do, but a lot of stuff you don't know about until you listen to the media. The media just whine and dine you, telling you some stories. Exactly.
Yeah, you're right.
You know?
the media are like
So mini Hollywood.
They have a responsibility.
They're trying to get views.
That's it.
They've got YouTube
100%. Piers is on 1.7 million. Right,
he's got to get the most views.
He's got to be as controversial as possible. And the thing is, he's got a strong character, so, you know, and he's a guy. Yeah, you watch a lot of those other presenters on GMB are women. Right, but he's
bring him on purpose to people.
Of course they do. Ratings, you know, Ofcom complain. How many complaints are there every time that he's on there? But they weigh it up and they say overall the views go up like that. And if a percentage of people complain, fuck them.
But the crazy thing is what you're just saying about Ofcom. You know, like the Ofcom thing got complaints about the diversity, Black Lives Matter. They got 100 complaints. 1.4 million people watched it. Why is it even an issue when you get 100? Unless a million people complain, no one complains.
The reason being because someone decided that would be a good story.
Yeah, that's what it doesn't make sense.
It's as simple as that.
100 people.
Listen, I was watching a thing the other day about what you call it? You know the jumpers off of the 9/11 disaster. Now there was 200 jumpers off those buildings.
Wow.
And the people were traveling, when they jump off, they're traveling somewhere between 120 and 200 miles per hour. And when they hit the ground, it's like that, it's decimated. Now, the media actually made a pact among themselves that they would not investigate the individual people and their names or promote anything.
Why is that?
They decided that they just didn't want to touch it. So no media person report any of that. There was one guy who photographed a particular fella who was called the Falling Man or something. It was the photographer was named Richard something, and he photographed this guy a few times to show that this guy seemed to be accepting his fate.
I see that picture.
Made that into a little story.
Yeah.
Other than that, the rest of the media said they are not going to actually identify any of those guys. And that what they decided is a sick story and it would affect America's outlook and their economy. So they decided among themselves they're not going to publish that story. You won't find that story with those identifications of those people anyway.
I don't think it should be identified anyway because it's not fair on the families. But I'm surprised that it's taken so long to have the conversation, even about skyscrapers. People are having to jump out in order for the potential to survive. So why are we not talking about the height of buildings and if this happens again? I don't believe that identity, because I wouldn't want my father or brother to be identified
of course not.
As someone that jumped out, but the conversation should have been happened.
Why not?
He jumped out to save his life. I would not want my child, if my child gets murdered or someone else, I don't want the media to cover. I don't want to talk to the media. It's not their problem. It's my family problem. And for you then to highlight my issue on an annual basis, this is a family thing that we've got to deal with, and I want to deal with it internally, and I prefer to deal with issues internally, and when we're ready, we will have a conversation. So if you approach me and you want a conversation, don't do it unless you have my permission.
No. But as I say, it's the way it works is very much like prosecute and defense. You know when those guys talk to each other, so right, okay, well let's talk about some stuff that we're going to say before we sit the judge. Yeah. And that's exactly what the media do. They all link up. There's a bit of competitiveness, but they work out exactly what we are going to see and hear. And then that's what they go with. Do you know what I mean?
It's a massive sense of responsibility.
Yeah, they're competing against YouTube now. And YouTube is full of misinformation and real information. So they have to find a middle where they're not breaking the information too much, but it's entertaining. The news is entertaining.
It's entertaining.
It's got to be noteworthy. How can we go viral? They've got to fight. Like, bro, how many messages do you send? Videos coming through. And
the volume is massive. What do you guys think of, for example, social media platforms then? Because they're supposedly reporting what we do. Places like Twitter that are now actually checking your tweets and decide that they won't tweet something that you said if they think that it's what do you guys think of that?
I think it's wrong. I think
it is censorship. I don't think they should do it.
I think it's completely wrong.
You know, Donald Trump has said a couple of his tweets were, destroyed, and a few people that said they tweeted, is it Wiley, and a few of those people that said that they put things out. Listen, if you've got an opinion, you should be allowed to put it out there. And if someone rinses you afterwards for it, that is your problem. I don't think Twitter should be saying, well, we're not going to put your tweet out there.
I don't believe any conversation should be censored because education happens through censored conversation.
Exactly.
If we're arguing, well, I don't think you should argue, but we can't come to a disagreement and find a solution until we have a disagreement. Otherwise, again, I spoke at the echo chamber. What's the point in sitting in a room where we all think the same? We're not no advancement whatsoever in any field.
The thing is, we don't all think the same.
Exactly that.
No one thinks the same.
But that's the beauty of being a human being. And that's what the whole social media should be used as a type of enterprise. To basically share culture, learn, educate.
But that's what I think you should have that.
And that level of freedom. And,
you should have that freedom, exactly.
However, if you're aware of what's actually being censored, from like Shaka Bar's one, just an example, I'm not sure if you're aware of Shaka Bar, but he's quite a big social media, Instagram influencer, and he's a very conscious person. I won't say the word woke confident, but he's a very conscious person who's always talking about being organic, natural things, natural remedies, living a better way of life, doing a lot of community philanthropist kind of work, as well as like, well-being and everything. But he also speaks about matters of being like a human being. And a lot of his stuff gets censored so much, so many of his posts, and he'll literally call it out and he'll be like, how you guys are censoring these things?
Who's censoring it?
Instagram, like Instagram will put up a message, or different platforms that use.
I will say this information
violates X, Y, Z kind of thing, and
so somebody will report it, and then Instagram will skip it.
It's reported. There's a lot of times where he's tried to post stuff up and it won't get posted. It'll just keep like, it's even happened to me on my Insta. I haven't got a following even close to his, but I mean, he's got quite a big following as well, an extensive following, and then you'll see other stuff go up, like the George Floyd, just for example, or murders or black people fighting. And you see things like that getting up, and you'll see gruesome things literally getting posted up, and you're literally cringing as you're watching it. It's like, how does this stuff that's so bad, so cringe, showing decapitation, showing
because somebody out there has decided what they want you to see.
But same as music. When you listen to music that's about hoe this, bitch that, end this, end that. Such derogatory and destructive communication. Oh, I will kill this guy if he looks at me awkward and slack. And that's being played and repeated for people to play out. But somebody who's putting out something that's actually educated on our history, on our ancestral values and everything is being censored. There's a real question of what the actual agenda is behind
the question is who's the puppet master? That's the question.
You mentioned Wiley and Nick Cannon, prime examples. What were these guys saying that were lies? What were these guys saying that was not authentic from their personal experiences?
No, I think it was genuine.
Or that wasn't genuine. That had to literally get them discredited, removed. I don't think I've seen Wiley on socials since.
I think you should have a freedom of speech, but the moment you open that freedom of speech, and you have to be willing to accept it from every side. So you just talk about information that you agreed with. So if a racist person come up and said "fuck all black people" and started saying this and the other, are you going to be happy that he's allowed to say that? So I'm open to every conversation.
Exactly.
That's so, like I said, whether I disagree or agree with you, Twitter should be a base of information and you find it. And like John said, once you put that there, now it's down to me to get at you and tell you about yourself.
But it's worse than that. You've got to be very careful about, the game that you play, caught in fame, caught in followers, because I'm telling you, when you do start to become an influencer, have a certain number of followers, you are now going to become a target for these guys that are watching.
Anything that you say as well.
Anything that you say, and you might think, okay, well, I'm free and I can do and say what I want, but it's not true. The higher you go up the chain, actually, there's people out there that are
waiting to chop you down, man.
They are waiting to chop you down.
There's people that just want to provoke you, like trolls that sit there.
They are. Even getting an interview, someone will say, "Oh, let's interview this guy," or whatever it is, blah blah. And they get there, chop it and change it, edit it what you're saying.
Literally.
And then it's the case you look like an ass.
Unfortunately, bad news is good news. That's the society that we live in. That's what you guys were saying about the numbers before. Bad news is good news. We'd rather report on a story. This is the root of where this conversation started from. You'd rather report on a story of somebody doing something negative or coming out of their normal behaviours and this person done this person slapped or raped or whatever it is. Or a really negative story, and that will get the top views, other than somebody's achieved a qualification or somebody actually helped and charity.
If someone's got a qualification, who cares about that, man? Someone stabbed someone 4 times. What?
They know. There's people that are paid high amounts of money to do marketing research into the human brain and what triggers us. And what triggers us is threat,
Threat,
of course. Like flight or flight. Oh my God, I have to move out of this area. To be fair, I don't, out of 100,000 people, 300,000 people in Croydon, I don't know the numbers, but how many people got stabbed last year? So the likelihood of you being stabbed is almost zero. Probably as much as catching corona there. And I'm like, well, of course it is. They send us a fear. They fearmonger everything we do. You know what? McDonald's is bad for you. Okay, the population is obese in the country. To be fair, I don't see that many people walking around like they're going to die tomorrow.
But the industry wouldn't survive if they couldn't keep perpetuating that. That's what it is.
They have to.
They have to. That's how the industry survives.
Egos.
No judgment.
Break bread and prosper. Talk to a brother.